You lived an entire life of firsts. You took a first breath, heard voices, felt warmth, and eventually learned to sit, crawl, and stand. You experienced months of intense, vivid sensory input, and yet you remember absolutely none of it. For over a century, thinkers struggled to explain this void. In 1905, Sigmund Freud called it infantile amnesia. He argued that the mind actively hid early memories because they were too emotionally raw or primal for the adult conscious mind to handle. Freud's theory of repression eventually fell out of favor, replaced by a more mechanical assumption that an infant's brain is simply too underdeveloped to function. The hardware, scientists assumed, was too weak to record and retain complex information. But recent investigations into the biology of the developing brain suggest a different reality. The infant brain is capable of capturing data, which raises a more difficult question. Why does that information seem to vanish by adulthood? To understand the capacity of the infant mind, we have to look at how babies learn. In the 1980s, psychologist Carolyn Rovey Collier designed an experiment to test whether infants could hold onto a learned behavior. She tied a ribbon from an infant's ankle to a crib mobile. The babies learned the connection. Kick the leg, the mobile moves. Tested later, 2-month-olds held the memory for days, while 6-month-olds retained it for weeks. Retention increased with age. The hardware works. Infants can learn, store data, and retrieve it. But while these memories exist in the short term, they fail to persist into adulthood, leaving a total black hole where our first years should be. The reason for this disappearance may lie in the sheer speed of brain development. In the first years of life, your hippocampus generates new neurons at a rate that will never occur again. This process is called neurogenesis. While this growth is essential for building the circuits used for language and logic, it is also disruptive. As these brand new neurons integrate themselves into the brain's existing architecture, they physically rewire the network. This rapid integration forces existing neural connections to break or shift. Those connections are the very pathways that hold early memories. This biological process mirrors a city undergoing massive renovation. To build modern infrastructure and larger buildings, the old roads must be torn up. In the process, the original map of the city is lost. Long-term storage was sacrificed for the sake of aggressive construction. The brain prioritized building the adult self over preserving the record of the infant. For decades, scientists believed this growth physically erased early memories. But research from Dr. Tomas Ryan has challenged that assumption. He focuses on engrams, the specific clusters of neurons that physically encode an experience. By using light to stimulate specific neurons in adult mice, Ryan's team successfully reactivated infantile experiences. The physical engram cells had survived the rapid growth of the brain. They were still there, even if the brain had lost the ability to trigger them naturally. This research also highlighted the role of microglia, the brain's immune cells. They appear to act as managers, deciding which engrams are preserved and which are suppressed during development. These findings suggest that infantile amnesia stems from a failure to access stored data, rather than the permanent erasure of the data itself. Your earliest experiences may still be physically present within your neural architecture. They exist as silent records, waiting in a system you can no longer consciously navigate. Even if the biological data is preserved, there is a psychological barrier to accessing it. To form an autobiographical memory, you need to understand that the events are happening to you. You need a sense of self. Developmental psychologists test this using the Mirror Rouge test. Before 18 months of age, most infants don't recognize their own reflection. They treat it as another child. But around 18 to 24 months, children begin to reach for their own faces. This emergence of self-recognition aligns almost exactly with the age of our earliest retrievable memories. We cannot recall being a baby because psychologically there was no continuous self present to claim those experiences. While conscious, explicit memories of infancy are suppressed, another system remains fully operational from birth. Implicit memory is the body's non-conscious record of emotional patterns and instincts. It doesn't store facts or events. It stores the feeling of safety, the reaction to stress, and the defaults of our nervous system. The specific details of your first years are hidden, but their emotional residue dictates how you respond to the world today. Early attachments and environments became the lens through which you see every relationship and every fear. The brain performed an evolutionary trade-off. It dismantled the baby's identity to build the complex person you are today. In the end, you have forgotten the explicit details of your first years entirely,